Every year in the NBA, about 30 teams play 82 regular season games, which makes for plenty of games for the fans to watch, but let's be honest, it's a lot of games. There's so many of them that each individual game doesn't mean much, but the 82 games combined are meaningful in that they rank the teams to determine playoff qualification as well as the matchups. And once the playoffs start, well, that's the best time of the year for an NBA fan. All the players are giving it 100%. Whatever they were saving during the season comes out here. It's where we get to see the best players play at their best. I would say that the least important playoff game still has more meaning than the most important season game. And as the playoffs progress, the weaker teams get eliminated. The 16 teams are slowly cut down until the best one from each conference is left standing. These two teams play each other in what we call the NBA Finals, a best-of-7 series that's used to determine who's the very best. As if cutting it down to 7 games to see who's the best wasn't enough, every so often the two teams are so evenly matched that the finals goes all the way to Game 7, the most important game in basketball. Each team has played about 100 games that were all leading up to it. It's tremendous pressure for the players and everyone involved. Even as a viewer, I can feel the nerves. Every year we're guaranteed a final series, but since 1979, there have only been 7 occasions where the finals went to a Game 7. I wanted to make a video featuring all the Game 7s in NBA history, but once you look at anything much earlier than 1980, it becomes hard to relate to today's game, so I kept the focus in the recent era, and I'm going to start with the one that I'm sure we all remember. It's the exact matchup from the previous year, but better in many ways. The finals from the year before was a bit of a letdown. Cleveland was dealing with injuries that kept key players Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love from playing through most of it. LeBron put the team on his back and amazingly kept them in it for 6 games, but ultimately Golden State came out on top. But in 2016, it was one of the best finals matchups a fan can ask for. Curry and his team were generally much better than the year before, Curry winning the MVP unanimously and the team winning 73 season games. But on the other end, LeBron had an incredible season, and his team was healthy this time. Golden State took the first 2 games, which was no surprise to anyone. Cleveland took the 3rd game, but Golden State came right back to win the 4th, giving them a 3-1 lead. Cleveland won the next 2, and were able to force a Game 7, and we all remember what happened in that. We don't have to go too far back to find the next Game 7. It featured LeBron once again, this time as part of the Miami Heat facing the Spurs. The Heat were the defending champions, having beaten the Thunder easily in the finals the year before. This year, the finals were far from easy. The two teams featured all the players we would expect. They traded games throughout the series. Spurs took the first, Miami took the second, and they continued to trade like this up until Game 7. There was a point in Game 6 where it was really looking like the Spurs were going to take it, when they were up by 5 with 20 seconds remaining, but clutch 3-pointers from LeBron James and Ray Allen saved it and forced the Game 7. In Game 7, LeBron had a stellar 37-point game. He made 5 of 10 3-pointers and 8 out of 8 free throws to help his team win it by 7 points. These 2 finals Game 7s are the only 2 for LeBron, and I'll just say I wouldn't want to play against him in a finals Game 7. Again, looking back 3 years is where we find our next Game 7. It was in 2010 between the Lakers and the Celtics. I don't want to go through the entire history of the Lakers and Celtics rivalry, that's for another video, but just know that it's probably the biggest rivalry in basketball, dating all the way back to the 1960s. This one was an interesting matchup to say the least. Celtics had 4 incredible players, Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, and Rajon Rondo, but the Lakers had probably the best player of the entire series, Luke Walton. But they also had Kobe Bryant. 2 years before this, in 2008, the teams were in the finals together when the Celtics won the championship. 1 year ago, the Lakers won the championship, but the Celtics had failed to make it to the finals. So this series featured the champions from the last 2 years. For the first 4 games, the teams traded wins, bringing it to 2-2 entering Game 5. Game 5 went to the Celtics, then Game 6 went to the Lakers, tying it again 3-3 and bringing it to a Game 7. Looking at it, it's a little shocking that the Lakers won. They only scored 83 points, and Kobe Bryant shot 6 for 24, including 0 for 6 from the 3. but Kobe, Gasol, and Metta World Peace all scored more than any Celtics player, which was enough to beat the Celtics. This is an example where you can see how much the teams used their starters in these games. The Lakers had 9 bench points, and the Celtics had 6. We have to go a little further back to find our next finals game 7, back to 2005 when the Spurs played the Pistons. The Spurs were amazing, of course, with the same core players as the 2013 team we discussed, with the exception of Leonard, I suppose. Pistons had players like Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, and Rasheed Wallace, and were the defending champions after they beat the Lakers in the previous year, after the Lakers failed to beat the Spurs the year before that. Rewind that a few times if you really want to follow it, but just know that this year we have the Spurs against the Pistons. Spurs took the first 2 games, Pistons took the next 2, and the teams traded the 2 after that, making it necessary to play a Game 7, which was tied going into the 4th quarter. So when you think about it, the entire season came down to a single quarter, but Manu Ginobili scored 11 points in the 4th, which helped them earn a 7-point lead, and they won the game. For the next one, we're all the way back to 1994, when the Knicks faced the Rockets. This was the first finals in 3 years that didn't feature the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan had retired, and it was the chance for other NBA teams to earn their championship. The Knicks had beaten the Bulls in the second round in a 7-game series, and the Pacers in the next round in a 7-game series, and were again in a 7-game series. The team was strong, with players like Patrick Ewing, John Starks, and Charles Oakley, but the Rockets had a player by the name Hakeem Olajuwon. At one point of the series, the Knicks were down 2-1, but won the next 2 and were now up 3-2. The Rockets won Game 6 by a narrow margin and forced a Game 7. In fact, every game was won by a narrow margin. Every game in this series was decided by less than 10 points, including Game 7. Houston won the first 3 quarters by 1 point, then gained an additional 3 points on them in the 4th quarter. Hakeem led all scorers with 25, to go with 10 rebounds and 7 assists, to help the Rockets win it all by 6 points. We're now back to 1988 with the Lakers and the Pistons. Second time for both teams on our list. This was the showdown between the Showtime Lakers and the bad boys of the NBA. This game is interesting in that it occurred in the transition from Laker dominance to Piston dominance. The Lakers had won it last year, and they did win it this year as well, but the Pistons would go on to win the next 2 years. The Pistons won Game 1. Game 2 and 3 went to the Lakers, then Game 4 and 5 went to the Pistons. The Lakers took Game 6 by a single point, and that brings us to Game 7, which was also decided by 1 possession. Though Magic Johnson was the clear leader of the team, James Worthy was the star of this game. He scored 36 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists, shooting 68% from the field. The Lakers were down at halftime, but outscored the Pistons by 15 points in the 3rd quarter. The Pistons made a little comeback in the 4th, but it wasn't enough. The Lakers won their 2nd consecutive championship. The furthest we're going back today is 1984, with the second Lakers and Celtics matchup on our list. I already mentioned the Lakers and Celtics rivalry that you could imagine would bring even more attention to this game, but Magic and Bird had their own rivalry going that brought the intensity of this game to dangerous proportions. In the series, the 2 teams traded games with the exception of the Celtics winning both games 4 and 5. Magic was a huge part of the Lakers, of course, but he also had Kareem on his side, who was the game's leading scorer in Game 7. In fact, neither Bird or Magic led their team in scoring for this game. The Celtics had a small lead throughout most of the game, and ended up winning it by 9 points. Interestingly, in this 37-year period, there were only 7 Finals Game 7's. In the 28 years the NBA existed before this, there were 11 Finals Game 7's, including 3 more between the Celtics and the Lakers. So it appears they were much more common before. In the era we looked at, they occurred every 5 years or so. In the earlier era, they occurred every 2 to 3 years. I also want to mention that in these 7 games, the home team won all but 1, and that was last year, further enforcing my statement that you do not want to find yourself in a Finals Game 7 against LeBron. Of all the games that have been played in the last 37 years, these 7 were the most important, everything on the line, in one game. These are really the best games in basketball. Look at some of the players that were featured in them. Curry, LeBron, Kobe, Pierce, Ewing, Duncan, Kareem, Magic, Bird, and many others. This year, I predicted the finals to go to a Game 7 in my playoff prediction video, and I'm really hoping it'll happen. These games just can't be beat. Let me know in the comments any thoughts you have on these games. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more in a similar style, be sure to subscribe by clicking the logo so you know when I upload a new one.